Hey everyone, so today I am making a December daily. I've always wanted to make one. I thought that they were so cute. I've seen lots of videos on how to make them, and I thought, what a great idea, especially, you know, for December, you're running like crazy and you got to have things ordered and picked up and, whatever by certain days. That is the purpose of the December daily for me. Now, I know a lot of people use them as albums. I've just made this smaller version as something that I will take with me. But I think for, my actual journal of Christmas, it'd probably be a bigger one. But this was, as soon as I saw this, Lyric Lover did a video on craft things that she takes to the craft fairs. And as soon as she showed this cover, I thought, oh, land sakes, I need those. I loved it. It was perfect. My first thought was a December daily. And mine, of course, I had to do all this scrungy stuff. I put some of my distress tape and put a binding on it, some rusty staples. But let me just show you what it is. So the enclosure, I used twine and a couple of faux rusty. I didn't rust these bells. They came this way. They look rusted like this. And I just wrap that around. That's my enclosure. I have an eyelet back here. And it's not knotted, so it can be removed. But my ideas were I put a little jump ring, and this can be removed. I think this will make such a cool tag to put on a Christmas gift. I've stamped it to and from. And you can write on this. It's just wood. I didn't try with an ink pen, but I know with a pencil you can. I wouldn't probably use a gel pen, but I would imagine a regular ink pen will work just fine and not bleed or anything. And then I've used some muslin. And of course, my muslin is very clean looking like this. See, it's pretty and clean, so I had to grunge that up. So I used distress inks and did some stamping. I don't guess I have to explain. I'm going to walk you through how to make one of these, but this is it. So here's some more of that distress tape. I covered the inside. Just put some tickets here. This is a tea-dyed junk mail envelope. This is, I think this came from the Nothing's a Dollar Tree. And they're file folders, they're file separators that look like this. Have the little tabs on them. And they're acetate. So I thought, what a perfect dashboard. So I put some sticky notes on the front. I did label everything. This is your first day, second day. I used some calendars, old calendars, and splatter painted them with red and gold and used those as tabs to show the date. Here I put a stamp and highlighted the number 5. So these are some cutouts. Did some stamping with some, just number stamps. This is stencil. Did a stencil for that one. More stamps. I think I used mostly stamps. This is some seam binding. I stamped it with script stamp, and it's in the binding of the book, but I just made it extra long so that it could be like your bookmark. You could move it and put it wherever you want it. And then sometimes I hid the number, which I don't know if that'd be very much fun. Might make somebody mad. What day is this? Okay, so these are some die cuts. Sewed a little Christmas bag in the middle. More die cuts. Oh, these are my stamps that I couldn't find. Found them. And then some, like on this one, I didn't stamp the paper. I just clipped on the number 20 because I thought this was a good spot to write on the back. And that's just a little rusted paper clip. Some of them I put in a stamp, like this is 21st day. More stencils. another little cutout. And then, of course, on the 25th, I had to do a die cut in that shiny, sparkly paper for Christmas. And then I went on through the end of the year. These are the negative to some of the die cuts. So I cut around those, glued them onto book page. More calendar with the splatter painting. This was normal scrapbook paper. Took an eraser and made the numbers. So I erased it, and of course it made it, took away the color, and I just made a tab for the numbers. This one, I took a hole punch and punched out the number 31. And then on the first day of the next year, I put Happy New Year. So I did mine all the way through December, not just for Christmas, and actually the first day of the new year. Here's the back of the dashboard, and I put some more Post-it notes there. The back of our pocket. And this book, this is heavy cardstock. These cards are, and they're just really sturdy. And this is what they look like on the back, just a kind of a antique look. So I just wrapped this around, kind of pushed it down like to make a little circle like that. And then I put my jingle bells in it and pulled for the enclosure. And so I thought we can make one of these. We have started on the reindeer one. So let's do one of the little reindeer. And through that first one, you know, that's my kind of like my prototype, even though it turned out well. I don't know if I'm going to keep it for myself or sell it, but I learned some things as far as putting down the numbers and all those kinds of things. I should have probably done the order of things a little differently. I can't find the reindeer one, so we're going to do this one. And this is how they come, just flat. But so they've already been scored right down the middle. Really easy to fold. And like I say, they're pretty thick, so I go ahead and burnish it with my bone folder. And I've done the inside cover two different ways. I used a glue stick on one before I put the Mod Podge on to cover it. And the reason I did the Mod Podge was I figured that if whoever gets this is anything like me, they're going to carry it with them through the, through the month. Things you need to do, and this day I need to make sure and order this, or go pick up this or that or whatever. It's going to get a lot of wear and tear, because I would probably keep it with me at all times in my car, and my car is a disaster, so it would get a lot of wear and tear. So I did cover them with Mod Podge. But as I was saying, when I glued down the book page, I done it two different ways. This one, I put Mod Podge, laid down the book page, Mod Podged on top. This one, I glued it with a glue stick first, then Mod Podge on the top. And the only difference I can tell you, and you probably may not even be able to see, is when I inked it, by gluing it first before I Mod Podged, I inked it. And it seemed like that showed up a lot better, because I couldn't ink my paper before I Mod Podged it down. It's too brittle. I use very brittle book page for this. It works perfect. And because I couldn't ink that paper before I Mod Podged it down, I had to wait until the Mod Podge was dry, then ink it. And it just seems like maybe it didn't show up quite as dark, as the one that I glued. And then I could ink it once it was glued down and put the Mod Podge. So that's kind of how I came to doing it in that order. That's why I've done it that way. So I'm just going to get my glue stick. It's funny that things you find are handy to use when you're crafting. You keep all the things, or I do. These are what the baby's pull-ups come in, these little bags. So I keep them because they're perfect when you're gluing or whatever. Your paper won't stick to it because it's a plasticky feel. And so I've been using this same sheet for all the ones that I put Mod Podge on. I just wiped it down after I was done with a baby wipe, and it's good to go for the next time. So I have my glue stick and my very brittle paper. When you bend it, it's going to tear. So I put this down in a pretty good layer because even though we're going to Mod Podge over it, it seems like if you don't get a really good layer of the glue stick, your paper will bubble underneath. And of course, you can get them out, just rub them down with your hand, but it's nice if they can lay flat to begin with. So I just put my paper like this, and I'm not really going to worry about that piece because that's going to be covered by my pocket and my seam binding. Rub it down a little bit. Let's do the other side. And I will say, if you want to collage it, well, like you're going to have the exact same sheet that I have, book page. But I've been able to make one book out of a book page. See how that just tore? Just put it back down. So I'm going to get another sheet. But you can tear off the book page and use this same page for the whole cover. And I've done that, but this time I'm just going to do it the easy way. And I used all my scraps. I did some that look like collage, like this one. I just collaged pieces together, and I think it's so pretty. So now we have that glued down. I'm going to pull it up, and I'm just going to bend my paper backwards and pull it. And it comes perfect because it is brittle book page. So I would recommend using something that it's really hard to do anything else with. Like, don't use a sturdy book page. You can, because then you can just trim it off. But if you have book page like this that you don't really know what to do with it, because every time you touch it, it falls apart, this is perfect. Any kind of decoupage or collaging is perfect for that kind of thing. Just picking that off. Now I'm going to ink it before I put on my decoupage. As I was saying, to ink over the decoupage, it's slick, so it doesn't really hold the color that well. And don't worry about the rough edges, because when this is dry, I also took a little sanding block and went over it just to make sure my edges were good and smooth. Okay, so next step is I'm going to paint it with the Mod Podge. And I use the matte. You know, it's not that I will always use the matte kind. It's just what I pulled out. I have the shiny too, and I don't really think it makes that much difference on this project. So I'm just painting a really pretty good layer on there because I only paint it once. I only coat it once, so I want a pretty good layer, and it dries pretty fast, so it's not. I know that Mod Podge takes some time to cure, but like I have said before, I'm not sure if it's just my, the room that I'm in, the temperature it is, or what, but it doesn't stay sticky. It actually dries. Now, I say that, and I'll probably ship them somewhere, and they'll get all kinds of sticky by the time they get to whoever. But anyway, so that's how I do that. And if you're making more than one, I peeled this off, laid it to the side, and then you don't even have to have a wet baby wipe. It comes right off with the dry one, and I just would wipe that extra glue off. Like that. See, and it's not sticky anymore. And it's ready to go for the next one. So I'm just going to fold this back up because I may never get another piece of it. And land sakes, I don't want to be without this piece. So I have one here that's already dry. Well, I don't want to use the chimney one. Let me find one that's dry that's a a different design. I just grabbed the whole stack. I thought I would show you another way that I used packaging. So I did all of these at once, and I smoothed them all down with my hands, and then I stacked them on this packaging like you get stickers or anything in. And then I took a roller like you would use on a jelly plate or anything. You could use rolling pin. And I rolled them. And then I stacked them in this kind of paper so that they wouldn't stick together until they dried, which they were almost dry at the point I did all of that anyway. I just think it's interesting sometimes to see how people upcycle different things in their crafting. And of course, on the very, very bottom is the little reindeer that I want to work on. There he is. Okay, so, and again, I just keep all these because, may never get another one. And I'll do the same thing with another project. I love using them for decoupage, or when I do any kind of, like when I put gesso on stuff, I make charms and I'll put it on these and gesso it because it will come right off of these papers. Okay, so on this one, I didn't get too crazy about making sure my paper was, but see, now it won't break because I've put all that stuff on there. So I'm just going to take some scissors and trim the excess off, making sure it's all laid down flat and it's good and dry, and it is, so I feel good about that. The next thing I did was I took my seam binding, which I can't find, so I'm going to use something different, maybe some ribbon, and I actually have a piece of that left, so maybe I'll just use it, even though I was wanting to use a different color. So at this point, I took my seam binding, which was plain, took my script stamp, and just lightly stamped both sides. Because however you glue it in here, when you pull it down to hold your book page, the other side's going to be clear. So I stamped both sides, and it's just script stamp that I don't think really says words anyway. I think it's just a bunch of scribble. So it doesn't really matter that it's right side up. But I'm going to try to find some different ribbon to use for my bookmark on this one. But while I'm looking, another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a piece of my muslin and just cut me a little strip that will wrap on the seam. I don't need it to be very wide because I don't necessarily want it to cover much of my front or my back. So I just made it kind of thin, a little thin strip like this. And I tore it so it would have the frayed edges, making sure that it will go over both sides. Yeah, that looks good. Okay, and then I took my vintage photo and I'll just use one of these bags, and I just went over it like this to stain it up, making sure I got my little edges. I didn't want them to be pearly whites, and then everything was all grungy. So I did both sides. Then I took my script stamp and stamped down this like that, just where it gives it reminded me of the little golden books. I know they don't have words, but it seems like they're swirlies or something down the spine, the little gold spine. So that's why I did this. Then I took my Fabri-Tac and I'm going to run it down both sides of the crease. I'm not going to put it on the crease because I want it to be able to be flexible. And I just tried to get it as even as I could, or centered as I could. And then kind of folded it to make sure I had half on one, that it was even. you can still move it at this point. And then I just kind of squished it down real good. And when you open it back up, you're going to see there's a little wrinkle down the middle, and you want that because you want it to have give to open close. If it's too tight, it's going to start tearing somewhere. You have to have some give. And even though when it's perfectly flat, maybe we don't like that look, but how often is your true junk journal, I mean, it's full of all the things, totally flat? So there's that. You could round the corners. I don't think I'm going to. I think I might put some corner caps on this one. I'm not really sure. So I'm going to pause this just for a second and try to find something that will make me happy to go down the middle of this book. Okay, so what I found was a piece of apron, and I loved it. I thought it matched. I love the vintage, because it is a vintage apron. I love the color of it, so I'm going to use that. I don't know that it's really as long as I would like it to be, but it's going to work just fine. So I'm going to, again, I don't want to grunge it a lot because I think it looks vintagey enough, just the colors and, you know, the pattern of it alone. So I'm not going to ink it a whole lot, but I want to a little bit. And I don't know. I don't think I'm going to stamp this one. I like just the look of this. What is it? Gingham, or I don't know what that's called, but I like it. So I'm going to leave it as it is. I'm going to glue it on the inside. And I glue it all the way to the bottom, even though no one's going to see it. I just feel like it's given a little bit more structure, a little bit more, strengthens that spine just a little bit more. The only thing I don't like is my fold over piece won't be that long, but that's okay. It's long enough that it's going to work. And again, I'm going to put glue down both sides, not directly down the middle. On my other one, I had a nice long piece, so I left some of it to hang off the bottom, and I liked the way that looked. Again, making sure that got it nice and even, and I've got an even piece of ribbon, and I do. So I'm just going to let that dry for a minute while I get my envelope ready. And on the other one, like I said, I used a tea-dyed envelope, but I had made some of this kind of envelope where I used Rit dye. And I think that's what I'm going to use on this one. Just going to get it open here. See where I need to glue to make it, if I need to glue to make it look good. Because I used the back piece last time like this. And if I peel that up, then this doesn't have as good a color. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue this down. And then I'm going to, well, first I'm going to tear it in half. Take off that inside because I'm going to fold the flaps over and strengthen them anyway. I'm going to glue this side. It's come up a little bit. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut along where that inside is. And see, that'll make a nice looking pocket on the outside. And then, of course, you know, can't get rid of that. I'm going to use that probably maybe for some number stamping on the inside or a tab or something. So now, because I wanted this pocket to not be a flat pocket, I folded in the sides. A couple reasons. It gave me more structure, strengthened that up a little bit. So I folded in the sides, just made sure that it would fit like that. And then I folded up the bottom a little bit. So I open it up and just do a miter cut across that corner. And I know it's a little bit wrinkled, but I like that. I just love the grungy look, so I'm good with it. Now, the next thing I did before I worked on the inside is I put some little eyelets so that I could hang my little book tag. Now, a good way to hang that eyelet, I think, I mean, this works fine. It lays good. It's not hurting anything. And it actually gives it a little bit of room in the middle. But I think going forward, I'm going to do this a little bit differently. I think I'm going to put an eyelet on each side so that, you know, it's not putting pressure on the eyelet to try to bend. Okay. Now let's make sure my jump ring's going to, when it's open, be big enough. Yeah, that's not putting too much pressure on it, so that's going to work just fine. So there's our jump ring. When it opens, it's still in good shape. It's not too tight. It moves around. I don't think it's going to hurt anything, so I think that'll work just fine. So now what I hung from this, I have a little wood piece, and this is something that I forgot to do earlier that I like to do. I kind of like to go around the edge of this just to make sure there's no papers stuck that shouldn't be there or any rough edges. So I just kind of did like that, making sure it all feels good. It does. So on this, I did the same thing. My little, because these are just raw pieces of wood. They're not painted, or it looks like the edges are stained though. But I kind of running a sander over them, sanding block, because they were kind of rough last time. Then I, again with my distress ink, I know I use that so much. Need to put a new pad on this, don't I? I just went around the edge to give it a little bit more, stained it up a little bit, give it a little bit more color. Got my little Christmas stamps. I think I'm going to stick with just Merry Christmas. Actually, I'm going to do It's the Most Wonderful Time of the Year this time. And I did make this a color versus just doing the black last time. I have festive berries and pine needles. Kind of what I've been using. I think I'm going to use green on this one because, you know, all the green in the front. Everybody's like, yeah, just stamp the thing. Isn't that cute? And then I'm going to do a to and from on the back. As you can tell, that's not really how that stamp came. It was meant to look like a tag, and I didn't want that, so I cut it. My little stamp's not wanting to stick, so I'm going to wipe it off with the baby wipe. I think it's just too dusty. If that doesn't work, I'm going to put a little bit of glue stick on it. That works. Then I just hooked a little bow pin on it and run it through the jump ring. Like so. Isn't that so cute? I love that. And I'm going to take it off, though, because while I'm working and flipping and flopping the book, I don't really want to have to fight with the tag. But I thought, you know, it would make a really cute charm in a journal, or, you know, I would even seriously use these on packages. Just tie them with some ribbon or twine. I love that. So I've already collected my papers that I'm going to use. Here's my dashboard. I had a blue one. It came in like a pack of 5, I think. And one of the file folders will make 2 dashboards. So what I did was I have, not including the dashboard or the bag in the middle, I have 8 pages. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8 times 4 is 32. So that's exactly what I need. And how I got that was, if you look at, okay, this is 1, 2, 3, 4. So each folded sheet makes 4 writing spots. 4 pages. So I've just put it in there. I don't even know that this is how I want to keep it. I don't think it is. And this is the envelope that comes with these cards, the little greeting cards. And I got this idea from Lyric Lover as well. So I just folded it in half. And I don't know that you would have to, but I did put a little bit of glue on the tip so that it stays up in there. And this will make neat little pockets. That's all I did. I just put a little bit of glue on the tip there because these will be your pockets. So main thing is to make sure when you're putting it in your book that you've got it situated the right way that you can make these the pockets. So I think I'm going to do it. Got tea dyed. Maybe put my envelope here. More dyed. Some packing paper. I need to tear this down a little bit. I know that that's too tall. Now on my other ones, I did leave them on the taller side because I always like the ruggedy look sticking out the tops. But you can certainly, cut it down to exact size. And on my little bag here, I'm going to cut off one end so that it makes 2 spots, just a little sliver, so that I'll have 2 pockets. And I found this little circle that I think I'm going to glue onto one side to make it a tab. I think I glued it onto this side since I didn't put a notch in it or anything. So I think I'll glue it right inside that. I'm going to take my X-Acto knife and cut off the side. So I'm just going to take my ruler. It's not an X-Acto knife, just a box cutter. And cut down. And it's not smart to cut on your mat because I probably just cut it. No, yeah, I did too. So there is, everything's even. Again, if you don't like the stuff poking out, I do because I think it adds to this vintage look of the back. Have all of our pages. Put my little thing back in here. Now there's a couple things I like to do before I staple it. And you know, I debated whether to staple it or do the 3-hole pamphlet stitch. And I really like the look of the rusted staples, so I went that route. But like on my first page, on this one, I stapled this to my sheet, and that was a little difficult getting your stapler there. So I'm going to make stuff like that first. I may even go ahead and number all my pages first, just to make that a little bit easier for myself. What I did on this one, I had tea-dyed calculator tape. And I made a little, just layered some pages. I thought they would be great spots to write your little notes in, And then I just stamped. I had pre-printed some words on tea-dyed paper, stamped on some Christmas bells, sewed around, and that's the top. But another thing I think would be a cute idea to staple here are the tickets that I had in a previous video. Because I mean, you can write on the back of them. I think that would be a cute idea. So I'm going to decorate this. However, I don't know that you really want to see that part. Some of the things that you think, maybe it would be easier to do all the stamping and stenciling before we staple them in. And I am going to do that first. And then I'll come back and we'll staple our book and we'll be done. Another thing I think I would do first, let's go ahead and do that. These are 6 inches. So 3 inches is the middle. And I'm just going to make a little dot at 3 inches. I don't know if you can see it, but I put a little dot right there. So that's where I'm going to put my eyelet for my enclosure. But I'm going to go ahead and decorate my pages. Like I said, I think it's easier to do that before I bind it in, and then I'll be back. Okay, so I've got all of my pages decorated, or, you know, I have numbers. I didn't decorate. But I'm going to tell you this, you know, not that it applies to me. Okay, it does. Listen, when you're numbering your pages, first have them like you want them before you start numbering. How you're going to want to bind them into your book. Not that I would do it, but don't take your page and start 1, 2, 3, 4, because these pages will not be together when you put them in. So I know you think, well, duh. Yeah, I know. I know. It's, you know, it's embarrassing to even tell that, but I think to myself, what if there's somebody else out there that is going to make these? You don't want them to feel like you did when you did that. So, um, lesson learned. So I'm getting my stuff, you know, just kind of situated like I want it. I think it's pretty good. So I'm going to put it in my book like so. We're going to staple it in now. I'm going to use the rusty staples. I have a stapler here. If anybody wants to know where I got this, I got it from Temu. I know that's probably going to make somebody mad, but it turns. You know, so I don't have one of the big crocodiles or I'm sorry, crocodiles don't staple, I don't think. I don't have a long arm stapler. So this moves where I can get to the middle. I put my papers like I want them, and I'm going to clip them. Use binder clips or, you know, whatever you have. These were close by, so that's what I'm going to use. And then I turn it over and I staple from the outside because I want the outside to have the clean edge of the staple. I'm going to just slide it in here and try my darndest to get that staple in the center. You know, I'm not very good at that either, but we're going to try. So I'm just going to staple down. That looks pretty good when I bend it. Yay. Okay, now I'm going to turn it. Do it from this side so that I can get the middle. And then one up close to the top. And those look pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. Okay, so, and then what I do is I just go on the inside and make sure I'm in my crease, and I'm not on this one. I am these two, but I'm not this one. So I'm going to take it out and do it again. There, that's better. Well, no, it's not. Look, what am I doing? Look, I keep getting it too far over. Okay, try it again. My word. I'm sorry. I'm going to cut this out. You guys don't have to watch this nonsense. And I do have a staple puller. But look what I did to it. I've just about, I mean, I've wadded it up bad. I don't even remember how I done that, but it's in bad shape. It's good enough I got that out. Okay. They say third time's a charm. Let's try it one more time. Goodness. Well, for the love. Oh, I did it that time. Did I do it? No. I'm going to have so many holes in the middle. Oh, for Pete's sake. I think it would have been easier just to do the 3-hole pamphlet stitch, just saying. All right. You know what? That is wonderful. All right. That's good enough. I'm going to press these down. And I'm really sad that I look how I've gone that up. I'm not going to be able to. I'll keep this one for myself, I guess. All right. So I'm going to clip on my little, well, I'll do that last. Now I want to put on my enclosure. Just trying to see what kind of strings I have here that might look nice, or if I want to stick with the regular twine for out my jingle bells. You ever start a book and it's like it's a cluster from the get-go? I mean, I put the wrong dates on everything, days, and then I've jacked up the middle with the stapling it 15 times. So how I did these was I just tied on my jingle bells just like a regular knot at the end. Actually, see, I'm overthinking myself. What I should have done, and I will do now, I'll trim that, but what I'm going to do now is I'm going to run it through first. It's not important. It works either way, but so I just folded it, ran it through that hole, and then brought it through, just like that. Now I'm going to, finish putting on my other jingle bell. I wrapped it twice. I thought that, I would leave it kind of long so that as the journal grew, I would have extra space. I will say I don't know about this baker's twine. It seems like it's wanting to knot up. Maybe it's just me today. So then like I said, I brought it around and I pushed this part through where I have a little loop. And then I put the jingle bells through the loop. And just pull. And then you have your nice enclosure. Oh, and it's not hanging right. This baker's twine is wanting to separate. So yeah, this is my new December daily. It's not making me happy. I could always change it, and I probably will. Probably in the future we'll either stick with like a ribbon or the regular twine. I liked it. It worked good. But so there is the little December daily. Isn't it cute? I think it's so cute. And then also be careful when you put your tabs that you don't put one right in the center like I did. What a simpleton. I started out strong. I feel like I started out strong, and then it's just ended up like this. But I know that a lot of people are not going to run out and buy the 40 pack of these things because you're not going to resell them. You're going to make them for yourself. So what I would do, oh, we forgot to hang our little wooden tag, is I would like look for greeting cards. You can do this from a greeting card. And there's a lot of nostalgic, retro looking greeting cards. That's probably a better option. But like I said, I will definitely link her video below, so that if you're interested in seeing someone actually create a really pretty journal that wasn't a bumbled mess. Her name is Amber. She's great. She does all kinds of craft fair ideas. Anyway, I'll put her link below because she also has the Amazon link for these little cards. See, I think this twine just wraps a lot better. Another thing, I didn't put distress tape on this one, but that's okay. Guys, I hope you like this video. These really are fun little books to make. I hope you will make your own, as I have definitely made my own. And so many ways that you can number your pages. You don't even have to have stencils or stamps, or find numbers in a catalog. Draw them, paint them. So many options. Do not have to have all this stuff. So thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you next time. Bye.